you got to just do it
Exactly.
because no one's going to do it for you. Like no regrets, right?
Exactly.
Do all the things
Yeah.
and shop local, of course.
And that.
Shop local is everybody's New Year's
Shop
resolution.
local always.
Welcome to Nerdlandia.
Welcome to Nerdlandia, your monthly dose of wholesome, creative, and nerdy conversations. I'm your host, Emily Case Buskirk. We're kicking off the season strong with an absolutely incredible guest, Matel Rokke. She's a powerhouse creative who works as an artist and photographer while co-owning and managing the boutique Tsuru in downtown Lincoln. It's a beautifully curated shop featuring high-end clothing, work from local makers, and secondhand finds all in one perfectly cozy, cute space. We talk about what inspires her, the importance of being a more conscious clothing shopper, and why the shop is named Crane in Japanese. Matel, thank you so much for joining today and for kicking off season 2 of Nerdlandia. I'm just so excited.
Thank you.
I thought we'd just get things started with just talking about the origins of your little shop.
Okay, the origin story. It is,
Yes.
so my sister and I are actually both owners, and a lot of people don't realize that. She lives in Colorado, and
Okay.
I do a lot of the hands-on in-store, but as far as buying and doing all of that, we work together, and it's a really a fun kind of working relationship, with your sister. We're only a year and a half apart, but it's been a really fun way for us to work together, travel together, finding things for the shop. I think we originally planned on opening in Colorado at some point too. Maybe we still will. I mean, it's,
Mm-hmm.
you never know what might happen, but we both kind of got busy doing things and living life.
Right.
And so now we just have the one store. It was really kind of inspired. Lincoln didn't have a lot of small little boutiques at that point. I mean, we had Post
Yeah.
Nickel, which we had for years,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I hate that it's gone. And we had Stella. Stella had been there for about a year, I think, when we opened, maybe a little more. And we just were really inspired going, visiting a lot of other communities and places where there were a lot of really great small kind of boutiques where you could go wander around and shop. That became something my mom and my sister and I would do a lot when we would visit places,
Yeah.
just kind of wander, find these like little gems.
Absolutely.
And so we just really kind of went for it. I have an art degree, and I'm not a business major or fashion or any of that thing. My sister was an anthropology major, and
Oh, wow.
so there comes Tsuru. we, yeah, we just kind of jumped in. I think Lincoln is a great community to do that in. It really
Mm-hmm.
does provide some opportunity, especially during that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of chances to mess up, but not completely fail, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Lincoln it's pretty inexpensive. I mean, it's definitely changing. That's not necessarily the case.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
but during that time, it definitely gave us a lot of chances to, try things out, see what worked, what didn't.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of tough years for sure, just kind of pushing through, but both of us have always had kind of a lot of different passions. And so we were able to kind of keep digging and keep going and make that
Yeah.
happen.
That's awesome. And so how long has Tsuru been around then?
It was 17 years last August.
Oh my gosh. I
So
thought
about
it was
17 and a
15.
half
I
years.
couldn't quite remember. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're about to have an 18-year-old. I mean, that's like the craziest thing ever because I definitely don't feel any older than I was when we opened, and yet somehow you have an 18-year-old, and it's just like what just happened? But yeah, we'll be 18 next
Yeah.
August. Yeah,
Oh my gosh. And it was
yeah.
also funny when you're talking about how you were an art major and then in my brain I'm like filling in the blanks of like, oh yeah, so then your sister's a business major, but it's like, nope, just totally different and you figured it out and I love
No.
that approach.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I said, but we had a lot of support. I mean, we have grandparents who were entrepreneurs, learned a lot kind of working in their
Yeah,
business growing up, working with, just being around that, just kind of seeing
that makes sense.
what it meant. I worked at small businesses for a long time. I worked at Ruby Begonias for years.
Oh nice.
She's one of my favorites.
Yay.
And so she was great. She was really integral in just helping me with kind of logistics, like, I have to keep
Yes.
track of these things. She really helped me
Mhm.
out with a lot of things, just kind of learning how to structure and kind of get things going. So we had a lot of support. I mean, I can't say that we we're completely winging it, but there were definitely
Yeah.
moments of we are complete imposters. We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, recognizing the just community and support around is so important too. I don't think it's like a bad thing to admit that. It's like, why do we take such pride in being like, oh, it was like all by ourselves? And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
but
Well, you get a lot of those questions. And when you're first starting out, you already, you're having some rough times or whatever it is, you do kind of feel like you're supposed to have all the answers. And it's just, you don't at all. I mean, I still don't have
yeah.
all the answers in any
Yeah.
way. But I think as you continue on with your business, but also just as you kind of get older as a human, you just kind of start realizing that none of us have ever had the answers. None of us we're just all still figuring it out. It seems like everyone's got it all planned out, but no. It's all
Seriously.
still, yeah.
How are any of us supposed to know everything about everything, you know?
I don't know, but why do we always feel like we're supposed to?
Exactly.
We really do. I mean, it's so hard. And then, we were there. I mean, Tsuru had a MySpace account.
Oh my
That's how
gosh,
old
I
we are.
love that.
So that really does kind of start really making you realize how old we are. Like I remember getting on Facebook and being like, now I have to learn how to do this. Like I didn't have any desire to have a social media account, but I had to have one to have a business account. So, like, okay. I love going back and seeing
Seriously.
what we would be posting, and that was so unknown, and figuring out advertising.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It makes sense where you say that there's the Colorado connection too through your sister, because I can definitely see this nationwide brands that are a part of the store as well. So that actually makes a whole lot of sense now that I know that. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So where does the name Tsuru come from?
It's like naming a child. That's a really hard decision. We went through so many different names, and it got, really cheesy. It was just, and I don't know, I still don't know if we landed correctly. We kept trying to talk about why we love Nebraska. My mom
Yes.
and my sister and I were all from here. And, we talked about what makes us come back. Why do we want to be in Nebraska? We talked about Lincoln and things like that, but we started talking about just the Nebraska landscape. I don't live in Colorado. I get weirdly claustrophobic in the mountains. I don't love it.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think it's just growing up around so much space. Nebraska just has this this wide open space, and we all, I think, have been my sister and I were born in McCook, so you really could see forever out there. We started talking about the sky and started talking about all of the things that, like, what that means to us. And then we started talking about the cranes, and my mom spent quite a bit of time in Japan, and she started talking about the book about making 1,000 paper cranes.
Oh, yeah.
Supposed to bring you luck. Yes. So we did make 1,000 paper cranes for a window one.
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
It was a lot of cranes, but it was really fun.
Sure was.
So
yeah,
that was kind of where it came from. It had a weird Nebraska connection, but it's, a name in Japanese.
Yes. I'm actually from Crane Capital in Nebraska, but it really is like just such an amazing thing, and it brings people together. And I think the other cool element of that is this return, this like yearly coming back to that. And I think that really does do a good job of encapsulating series about being local, but then it's also about wider influences and bringing people together that way. So, I mean, I think it works personally.
I love that, though. I never thought about that idea of the migration and the idea of kind of going out, finding things that you bring back with you every year. And, we definitely do. The way that we shop has really changed throughout the years as well. We still do some markets, but we do some kind of more non-traditional ways of finding things for the store. And part of that is travel, going and finding things, going different communities, doing what where we started. We like to go places, wander spaces, find things. I love finding really small independent brands.
Yes.
I think that goes back to my art background, trying to find people doing really interesting different things. So yeah, that really makes a lot of sense. Thank you. You gave me a whole new perspective on the name.
Yay. That's awesome. But yeah, you kind of provided a good transition, because I mean, one of the things that draws me to Tsuru is just going into the space and, as you mentioned, finding all these really cool, unique finds, and just somehow it kind of all comes together into this magical little space. So, can you just dive more into like how you curate your shop selection?
Yeah, I mean I hear that and I love hearing it, but I'm sometimes surprised even just because it is, when it all starts coming in and I'm just like, what was I doing? I'm just like, it's like all these things go out into the world, like yeah, this, and then when it all comes in, I've got to like piece it back together in my brain, even though it was there in the first, and just try and put it in that small space and make it not look chaotic. Because I sometimes see some chaos. But that's because it's like your own kid, you're always like, you see those things. But trying to find things, it's so fun. Like I said, and my mom and my sister and I all three still do that. I mean, I think travel is a huge part of my inspiration. We make that a huge priority in my family. Just trying to get out and see different places. So whether it's, when it's fall break for the kids, we'll just get online. It's like, where can we find the cheapest flights, and just what random
Yeah.
city will we hit this time? And then you get to go visit these places and, just wander and experience a different community, find other things, look at different art, see different music, all of the things, I think are a big inspiration. And then, whenever I see something interesting, I'm always looking into it. With so many of our brands, we work with them for so long. They're kind of our core brands. We
Mhm.
can work with them very easily one-on-one without having to go. Sometimes going to markets are really overwhelming for me. I think it's kind of like the mountains. They get a little claustrophobic, but it's
Yeah.
why I like shopping in small spaces. I like having these smaller, so you go to a market and it's huge and there's so many people and so many things. And because I want to stop and spend time with everyone,
Yeah.
and that is really,
Yeah.
it's impossible. And
Right.
it's really hard not to, yeah, to have that engagement. And so I really like finding the smaller companies that we can have that engagement with. And even with some of the bigger names that we've had it for so long. I've worked with some of the same reps for almost 18 years. So you do
Yeah.
get that kind of relationship too. They kind of know you in a way that really helps with our selections as well. But yeah, just like wandering, finding the weird little nooks and crannies. And I definitely, through like some brands, I might find other brands just because their relationship. But it really is just, I wandering through. I mean, I think one of the last trips I went on where I found a lot of San Francisco was so much fun. Just wandering through, getting to go to some of the stores of some of the makers we already had.
I love the like curiosity and exploration, and also finding hidden gems, because that's definitely the sense I get when I step into the store. So I think it all comes across.
I've always wanted to be, and it's a lot of how I do my artwork too. I've always wanted to be a specific kind of artist.
Yeah.
And I am always so in awe at like organization and how people create. And then I'm not. And then even with the store, everyone's like, well, do you have mood boards? Do you have, and I was just like, I've never made a mood board in my life. I mean, they seem so cool though. Like I love the ideas. I love like, I've just never been, that's not how my brain works. And so it is, again, you're always really just, I'm so inspired and awed by that, but I
Yeah.
can't make my brain work like
Yeah, and that's okay. The fun thing is that our brains don't need to work the same, you know?
that. Oh,
What works
maybe.
for one person doesn't need to work for another person.
I do, but you do. I get that question every time I get anyone interviewing, like from the university. I get students that come in and talk, and that's
Mhm.
kind of what they're taught to do. I think that's
Mm,
a very traditional way of doing things, and so they're always
yeah.
asking where it is, and I'm just like, I don't have that for you. Sorry.
Yeah. It's just magic, okay? Just magic
Yeah,
dust.
I love though. It's just there's a lot of like throw it all up in the air and hope it lands.
Yes. I think it makes sense. Like as a creative, sometimes we just can't explain
Mm-hmm.
how our thoughts and ideas become something that exists in the physical world. Like it just
Yeah.
happens, and like that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like part of the fun of being an artist, is that like what we do can't be replicated, and like how exciting is that?
Mm-hmm.
But that also leads into something else I wanted to ask you about, because as an artist, I know that you do photography. Yeah, do you want to like talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like I have two kind of different worlds, but they do collide. They do work
Yes.
together. in an
That's
interesting way
awesome.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have my MFA in photography. That was what I studied and what I still do pretty consistently as well. I teach up at Metropolitan Community College in Omaha,
Oh,
and I've done that
nice.
for it's been over 20 years.
Okay.
I think
Wow.
I'm gonna be like stop counting because I don't want to. But I always thought, I came back from Connecticut where I got my MFA, and I really wasn't planning on. I thought it was kind of a stopover again, and then I was dating my husband at the time, and we just I got back to Lincoln. I just remembered kind of how you can really take some big deep breaths here. Like it's just a really nice,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, now what's next? What am I doing?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I kind of randomly met some people here. I got my job at Metro as an adjunct, and it really stuck. Obviously, I've been here forever,
Yeah.
but it's an awesome program. I think everyone I work with has been there as long as me or longer. I really love teaching there, and then I realized I liked teaching, and teaching part time. I'm able to really focus on teaching, and then kind of walking away from all of the rest that can be kind of distracting to me and maybe just isn't as much of what I'm interested in. And so, that's kind of where when the store started, I was like, well, I'm teaching part time. My sister was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. So that was part of the origin as well. It's just kind of trying to figure things out and find something else to keep inspiring us. And I do feel like they work together. I love doing I do a lot of process work. So when I say I'm a photographer, I would say I'm an artist that uses photography as my medium.
Yeah.
So, I definitely, I do a lot of, different kind of what they consider alternative processes. So cyanotypes, those are the blueprints.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been working on some 3-color printing processes.
Oh,
And I have a
cool.
darkroom in my basement, and I
That's
spend a lot of
awesome.
time in there making some different things. I just had a show in Nebraska City. It was really fun. I did some really big pieces, but they go together a lot. I think
Mm-hmm.
once I finally quit, I think for a while I really kept things separate.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I finally kind of let them combine, I think that was a really good moment. I
Yes.
think it's, they're still kind of separate worlds. I still have a lot of people like, wait, you do what? And then on each side, they're like, wait, I thought you were, and I'm like, well, yeah, I do both. I think it's good for me. It keeps
Yes.
me moving that I have all like those different things going, or I can get really, if I'm stagnant, I am like not doing anything. I need deadlines.
Yeah. Well, and my brain sort of works in the same way of I have so many different interests and so many different things I want to try, and I don't really like to kind of stick with one thing necessarily. I mean, I think that there's kind of
Mm-hmm.
overarching themes that can emerge, but I do like seeing how, I don't know, you find new colors and it's really fun and
Yeah.
interesting. And why should we have to like make it make sense or put things into
Yeah.
a box or whatever?
And we were always told that you go to college and then you have this 9 to 5 job, and then it's like you go home and you go to work, you go home. Yeah, I don't work that way at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
It's never been, I don't know that I could ever handle being somewhere specifically from like 8 to 5
Mm-hmm,
and then
mm-hmm.
nothing. But then again, I've
Yeah.
never tried it, so I can't say.
It sounds like you know
Can't
yourself
say.
well enough. What kind of subjects inspire you as a photographer then? As an artist?
I would say I've always been really inspired by ideas of kind of memory and objects. I just did a show also with Hannah Dema. We did a show together where every piece was collaborative. That was really interesting
Hmm.
because it was, here's my photo, and she would kind of go in and completely change it, alter it, which is, I think for a lot of people, I think that can be really hard. But we worked really well together. It was really
Yeah.
fun. But those were a lot of ideas of kind of loss and kind of the things we leave behind that can kind of still hold such personality and really bring back ideas of a person. But I also, travel is also a huge thing. My kids, they're always part of my images. They're not really, whether they're actually in it or not, they're definitely a part of why I notice things a lot as a mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, they're always getting into something. I always am attracted to kind of the images that are it's slightly off, if that makes sense. Things that kind of are peculiar enough to make you wonder what the heck is going on. And yeah, I want them to be something that make you think a little deeper beyond just the actual image itself.
Yeah. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. Adventures, lots of adventures.
Yeah. And in your art and, even like with your work at the store, what do you think inspires you like aesthetically?
Ooh. I mean, I definitely have a love for vintage. That idea of collecting has always been something. The strange little collections we keep, the things that we can't let
Yes.
go of.
Yes.
I definitely think vintage has always been something I'm interested in, but I can kind of ebb and flow between a lot of different things, and I think one thing with fashion is we're all kind of convinced we're supposed to be one specific thing again, are
Hmm.
you, if you dress a little more preppy, are you a little more, kind of on the edge. I mean, there's so many, and I'm like, it really, again, depends on the day. Sometimes I want to, cross some boundaries. Sometimes I want to be crazy pattern clashing. And I love my kids' reactions, and the funny things they call it. It's like art teacher mode. I mean, it is, it's so much of that is just, yeah, it's like, you can be all those things. Just let yourself continue to explore it. I hear so many women talk about certain things they're supposed to be wearing because of body type and things like that. I really don't, I don't buy into that much. I think there's a way that everyone can kind of wear different things. It's all about balance. And I think a lot of that comes from my ideas of art too, and just ideas of
Hmm.
balance and
Yeah.
proportion and scale and, how you can make certain things work. And also realizing like we are all different shapes and sizes and we don't have to look like that, has to be cinched in the middle and just, all the things. It's like
Right.
you can explore so many things and really find things that are so aesthetically pleasing doing that. I'm super attracted to different color combos, different generations. I think it's fun to kind of bring them all into play. And there's certain things that I really don't like. I don't like low waisted jeans. I will not bring them back. I can't
Yeah.
actually claim that. I might. I don't know. But I don't love them.
Right.
But
I know.
that's always a hard thing. I feel like there's certain things you see and you just fall in love with and you don't know why. And you just got to go with it because, I mean,
Hmm.
obviously there's a reason it's jumping out at you. And
Yeah.
don't second guess your instincts. Like we all have those. And then we all sit there and go, oh, well, but I heard that I'm not supposed to wear, does this make my ankles look fat? Does this, I hear so many interesting things. We're all so hard on ourselves. Like you see certain things people think make their feet look bad. I'm like, how do your feet come into play? It's a shirt. But I get it.
Yeah.
This is what we've all been dealing with our whole lives. And so I always hope that I will find something just new and different that will surprise. I like picking things out for people when they come in because they maybe wouldn't pick it out for themselves. Like, no,
Yeah.
I can't wear a maxi dress. I'm too short. Like, well, can you though? Really? Maybe it depends on where it hits or where the waist hits or where, I don't like the word can't. Maybe that's it.
Yeah. I know. It is sad that fashion has to be so tied into negative body talk that is like pushed
Hmm.
on us. I mean,
It is
yeah.
hard.
It's everybody, but yeah, as a woman it's like it's constant.
But
So,
yeah, and we all have it. We all have it. And I always feel so bad hearing it in the store. But I also hope that I'm like, yeah, whatever. That looks amazing.
yeah.
I definitely won't
Yeah.
lie to you. No one wants to do that. That's not cool. I'm the person that will tell you if you have a booger hanging out of your nose. I'm not going to let you walk out wearing a dress that looks just really bad.
Yes. Well, and I mean, personally, I found some of my favorite things at
Yay.
Tsuru. I remember buying some dresses for like special occasions, and then I end up wearing those dresses a lot just because they're like great
Yay.
quality and they make me feel great. And it's like, I wouldn't have given myself permission to like buy that thing just because, but since I had a reason, it's like now I have it and I love it. So
Yes.
it's
I
wonderful.
love hearing that you were able to wear it again and again. I think sometimes
Yes.
with those like occasion dresses, we tend to get so, I don't know, we go so far with it or it becomes so specific to that event that
Mm-hmm.
we don't give it another chance. But that's also why the consignment rack is there because sometimes there are those things that we think we'll wear again and we don't. We all have regret purchases too. Hopefully not from Tsuru, but like they do happen. And it's nice to have a place where you can maybe do a bit of a trade in and get something new.
Yeah. For sure. Does the secondhand clothing section of it kind of come from your love of vintage, or like what made you decide to also add that into the mix?
It's interesting. my love of vintage for sure, but we rarely get vintage on there.
I mean,
I usually,
yeah.
if somebody has a lot of vintage, I'm always like, go to Ruby's. They're right down the street from me. And I'm like, that's where she knows vintage. That is where that belongs. Sometimes they'll
Right.
want to, like a person brings in a lot of stuff and there's one piece. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to make you go down the street. But yeah, I think it came from that. But I think it also came from the idea of just those random things that you don't get a lot of wear of. Or you buy and it's just, you're having a hard time letting it go, but somehow this makes it easier. I don't know. I think I have a love for those random things that we tend to discard too. But I think, my sister, I have to give her complete credit for the Tsuru 2 rack. It is, she had talked about it for a long time. It took me a while to get on board. And I think mainly because I didn't want it to become a vintage. It was like, oh, I don't want to step on any toes. Jen's right down the street at Ruby's. I was like, I don't want this to be a weird, and it's like, well, no, it's not vintage. Why am I, and I was like, oh, whatever, we'll try it. So we tried, we just kind of slowly started bringing it in, and it has been a huge hit. People love it. And it's really fun to like not only find an awesome deal on something. I mean, we get stuff that still has tax, but it's also sometimes you missed out on something and then it comes back and it's like, oh, I finally get to have it,
Yes.
Like who doesn't love a good deal? And there's, these are like, I really try, and the Series 2 racket ebbs and flows into some different things, but we try to keep some really quality pieces on there because these are pieces that like they stand up to the test of time. I mean, I still have things I have from the store from 10 years ago that I still wear. And it's like, they're somehow still kind of relevant and on trend, yet not new. But also, the clothing industry is pretty bad. It's it's rough, the, amount of, discarded items, the amount of, the stuff that's getting made now that like, I mean, it's like, it's full of chemicals or it's, you just hear these stories and you see how much trash and how much, impact it has on the environment. Like it's hard not to keep that in mind, and even when we're buying now, it's finding that, sourcing more local, sourcing more kind of these small batch companies that are using dead stock fabrics and using things, it's just that idea of trying to think about doing our part, not always going for the new super trendy thing that you don't want to wear again.
Right.
That's the hard thing going, like, and it's hard in Lincoln. I think Lincoln can be kind of hard in a way that we're pretty frugal, and I get it. I really do. But that idea of being able to buy something that was not using, child labor, that was not,
Seriously.
that is not doing really horrible things to the environment. So trying to find some more ethically sourced brands is really important to us, but that does come at a premium. And that can be a hard thing to kind of get going here for sure. And I hope it continues to rise. I hope people continue to understand, like, actually buying this sweater from this company that I know is fair trade and uses organic fabrics and is not, not doing all these awful things. It is more, but I'm going to wear it more because the fabric lasts. The design is amazing. It's not going to go out of style immediately. So it's more of that, like, how much, a customer actually taught me this one. She's like, what's the PPW? And I'm just like, what are you talking about? And it's the price per wear. And I was like, oh.
I like
She's
that.
like, so really the price is, if you're going to wear that thing 10 times, the price is this. Whereas, you found this sweater, but it was on, and at whatever, and it was only $10, but you only want to wear it once and it doesn't feel good and it's gross. And you're like, oh, it's, who knows what is actually in that sweater? You got to start thinking about the kind of ramifications of what you're doing. And, I have a lot of friends. I'm always like, did you buy that from Shein? Was it worth it? Giving them so much crap for it. But part of it is too, like, it's not healthy. It's not good for any of us that's coming in and that's becoming a thing. And yeah.
It just like harms everything, honestly. Like you mentioned, people can have frugal tendencies, and I can definitely understand that too. Like, don't get me wrong. But I think if you're making a decision based on that of like, oh, I just want to get this cheap piece of clothing, it's like, okay, so then it's getting shipped in, so there's like those emissions, and it's this like super cheap fabric that is not going to last very long and is made unethically. Like, I I don't see how that benefits anyone, and you're not really
I
going to feel
know.
happy wearing it either. So that is one thing, like that's why I like going to secondhand clothing stores and smaller stores, like you mentioned at Tsuru, where you work with brands that are more intentional and conscious about it. It just makes
Hmm.
me feel better knowing if I'm going to spend time and money on getting some clothes that it's gonna be good quality.
Right. Well, and I like the idea of designers. I like the idea, as an artist, a lot of the other brands are basically stealing designs. Well, that idea of it's actually an artist that's creating that. It's a designer
Yeah.
who could get, it's like someone stealing music, or it's like it just is kind of a bummer, and then selling it like it's their own. Yeah, it's hard. It is hard in business to be on your soapbox, and but I try, constantly trying to continue down that path as much as possible. And it's hard. Are you finding secondhand clothing now, like when you're going like thrifting? I hear a lot about just all you're finding now is like Shein, these brand. It's like no longer. It used to be you could go find some really quality things, and it's not as easy to anymore. It's definitely kind of a harder deal. But
That was something I was gonna bring up too. It's like, yeah, going thrifting just isn't what it used to be because of all these like clogging up the secondhand clothing system now. So
hmm
again, it's just like
yeah,
don't even go to those places, or I mean go to there. Don't even go to those websites,
get off
okay?
the line. Well, and then like
Gosh.
we've all been guilty of going to that like store where everything's half off, but then it's also an extra 75% off sale, and you're like, well, this one is only $5. Of course, I'm gonna buy it. But like,
Mhm.
you're not, you don't, and then you don't wear it. You're like,
Yeah.
but it was $5, so you had to buy it. Like, don't
Right.
I get in that mindset? You're like, don't do it, because you just end up with so much crap you don't want to wear. You want to be able to go
Yeah.
into your closet and find something that makes you really happy to put it
Exactly.
on.
It's all about curating your own wardrobe, your own clothing collection. We're recording in the last few days of 2024 here. The episode will be out in 2025. Do you have any words, mantras, anything like that as we're facing down the new year?
Do you ever do the like a New Year's resolution?
I like to. I think of it more as throwing a bunch of ideas against a
Hmm.
wall and kind of seeing what sticks. So that's kind of how I approach it. I don't know. I just like to do. I guess it's a bunch of brainstorming more than anything.
Yeah, I think brainstorming is a great way to call it. Like it's that idea of like, what should I be doing?
Yeah, like what excites
Like make a
me.
list of all those things.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I've never been one that's like, I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to, don't get me wrong, that should be on my list. But, it was never those kind of goals as much as like, where do I want to go?
Mhm.
What do I want to
Yes.
accomplish? I think that, I've really been pretty excited with how things have been going with the space and with, my work. So just kind of keeping that
Hmm.
balance, trying to remember some days when everything's going wrong, that there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, yeah,
Just sit back and just relax. Don't. Yeah, I think we stress ourselves out so much on all the things. I think that's another thing COVID taught me. Like, you know what? People are sick. We're not going to open the store today. And that's
yeah.
okay. People will be disappointed. But I hope people are still understanding that, this is a small business and it's okay.
Right.
But so I don't know. I don't know that I have any wise words of wisdom. I think it's going to be a pretty wild year.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Buckle up. Be ready to do the right things. Be ready to, don't just sit back and watch it all happen. Like get involved. I think that always, the more involved you are in your community and things that you can do to help, the better. Just definitely being there for people, being a good friend, being a good mom.
Mhm.
I always, believe me, my kids are getting 11 and 14, so
Oh my
teen
gosh.
teen years are, you got to remind yourself.
Hmm.
Their brains are not fully formed, and they are going to be. But and, yeah, just do all the good things. I hope that as far as inspiration, like take chances. If you don't take the chance, no one will. I tell my students all the time when
Hmm.
I'm teaching. If you don't take the photograph, no one will.
Yes.
So you see something going on, do it. Get inspired. Like get out in your community. people don't do stuff.
Yeah.
So weird. Like, or do you just like go see live music? I don't care if it's at your church, if it's at the zoo bar, if it's at a coffee shop, go see the live music. Go have a cup of coffee and listen for 30 minutes. Go see art. I mean, we have so many great places you can go see art. Like, get inspired by the people around you, even if it's art and things that you might be confusing or weird. That's always the best kind. That's always going to be the stuff that makes you really think and maybe make you come up with some brilliant ideas. And
yes.
yeah, get the inspiration. Read the books.
Read the books.
I would like to read the books. I would. That should be my one thing. Read the books, because I went through a lot of years with the kids and everything. Like, if I start reading, I just I'm so tired I fall asleep. I can't read past like 4 pages and it falls asleep. But I do a lot of audiobooks in my commutes and podcasts. But I wanted to maybe get back to like an actual book. I really love the smell of them and the feel of them.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be my goal. See if I can stay awake.
Especially in like December, I feel like I really have gotten into reading to kind of stave off the the seasonal funk, and that's something I want to keep going with. So that leads us into the recurring ending segment of Nerdlandia, which is called Current Favorites. And so I'll start off just so you kind of have an idea of the vibe here. Mine is something that totally took me by surprise, but my mom got me a Lego set for Christmas, hilariously enough, and I absolutely loved it, and I have it. I'm going to show it to you. But it's like a little...
I can't believe it.
It's a plant. Like, it looks like...
Oh, cherry blossom.
Yeah, plum blossom, actually. And so they mentioned in the booklet that it's supposed to like symbolize like adversity, I think, and stuff like that. And it's just really pretty, and I had a lot of fun.
So cool.
So I might be getting some more of these like botanical Lego sets for decorations. My cat eats all my plants, so I don't really have indoor plants.
Oh, so now you can have plants.
Yes. So, okay, what's your favorite?
Current things. That's so hard.
I know. There's always so many things, too.
But I'm always like, I become obsessed with, just things in my, as people like to call their art.
Yes.
That always sounds really funny to me. But in my, like when I'm in studio, I feel like I'm always kind of trying weird new things. So I think that's where I get a lot of my, like, I'm still really obsessed with this weird 3-color printing I'm doing, but I can't say that's new, but I am obsessed with it, and I don't think I'm new. So that's a definite. But I'm also, I think, been sewing more. So we're going to be setting up a sewing studio in our basement at the shop. And so we'll see what comes. Maybe, the future holds a new in-house Tsuru brand that we make there.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I'm hoping that becomes my current obsession now that I can take that deep breath, right? We got through 2024 and
right.
between, I had 2 shows and then the holidays for the store. So like, I didn't find any fun new obsessions.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Like, ask me at the end of January. I'll be like, look what I've been doing. I'm obsessed with, and I'm going to have like 5 things.
Amazing.
Or I'm just going to be taking a lot of naps. Maybe that's my...
napping. That's always a great obsession to have.
I do love it. But no, I am really excited for sewing. We have been kind of at that for about a year, just getting our basement cleaned out and doing all sorts of stuff. And now it's ready just to really move in. And so that is going to be starting tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, that sounds incredible.
Moving some stuff in, and we'll see. Fingers are crossed. I used to sew a lot. I haven't done it as much lately, so I'm excited to jump back in.
Whoa, that's a huge update to hear. So listeners, go into Tsuru and ask how the sewing machine project is going.
Yeah, but don't judge.
No, just ask with curiosity and an open mind. And
I've got so many great ideas. I love doing block printing and things like that too, with fabrics and like just all the different things we can really dive into. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
It was just such an inspiring and multifaceted conversation. So it was just great to get to chat with you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I am still kind of blown away right now. You heard it here first, listeners. A Tsuru clothing brand might be emerging in 2025. But also, if not, that's totally okay too. By the way, if you're listening to this and have some work that you'd like featured, why not try and just reach out to the shop? Matel said she's always looking for new work to showcase, and you never know until you try. And that's it for this week. Tune in next time for a conversation with Grace Gard, a Nebraska outdoor educator and nature-based artist. See you then. Nerdlandia is hosted, produced, and edited by Emily Case Buskirk. Theme song and ending credit music by Keith West. Cover art by Ellen Stubbings. Additional music by Alex Goose and FAS sounds from Pixabay.
I always laugh when I say that my dad's wife, she did buy me a session with a photographer to get my photos done of my children, because she was like, "You guys just want normal photos, you know?" And I get that, you know. I was like, I know, I always find these weird moments that I think are so intriguing. And she's like, "But what about when they're cute?"